afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Anyway, just let me start with an introduction. My name is Ola, and from Center for Journalism at University of Medway, University of Kent. Yeah. So, and I'm in the media industry, obviously, and my work is on poverty, politics, and the press. And I'm trying to look at the role of poverty of media in poverty reporting. So, as you can see from my title, the long title, they're uncovering the complexities of media coverage on the Nigerian Social Investment Program, a critical examination of media narrative in the country. All right, so like we know that media, they're like, they're our ears, they're the things we see the world through the media, where you can be, they shape your thinking, they shape what you see, they influence how you do things, actually. And media plays a crucial role in shaping public perception, especially even in poverty reporting and government intervention. When such program is to be announced, it is announced through press conferences, and the journalists determine how you understand them. So, what is National Social Investment Program? The National Social Investment Program, well, it is a program that is designed to tackle poverty in Nigeria. And over the years, there have been several poverty programs. And importantly, this particular design is robust. It's targeted at a different age group. There we have the NCIP, we have the Conditional Cash Transfer, we have the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, and the GIP, which is General Enterprise Empowerment Program. And the GIP have subcomponents too. So, well, since 1960, since Nigeria was successfully able to break free from the colonial master, they started thinking for their own self. But all efforts to sort of balance the inequality in the society through these programs have failed. Well, I was beginning to think, as a media person, could there be a gap? Could there be a problem? Could it be that people don't know? Because when you ask people, are you aware about this program? They don't know. They are not sure. And say, oh, they only announced, we saw the stories, but nothing ever happened. And we realize that there must be a gap, and there's a reason to look at what is happening within the media space. And my journey began. Well, I started off this journey by thinking of doing a content analysis, but that was not going to be enough, because I would only be studying and interpreting what is publicly available. I thought about it, okay, let's readjust this and think about critical discourse analysis. People are also talking, since their voices are not there in the media. So I involved critical discourse analysis for some reasons. And the reason is simply because I want to understand how the people are discussing this. What are they talking about? Well, moving on, there's need to understand generally the media influence. Well, these are the programs that have been, that have been initiated, done, executed, and all of them failed. And I am particularly here looking at this, and I don't want it to fail. Personally, as a true citizen of Nigeria, I want to provide some understanding about it. Well, these are my research questions. My first question is basically looking at the themes, knowing what exactly is manifest in the media, in the press, particularly in newspapers. And then the second question and third questions focuses on uses critical discourse analysis to understand conversation on X, which is Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. And that's 2, 3, 4 actually. And then 4 and 5. 5 and 6 is basically looking at how journalists have been handling this using IDI, in-depth interview. Well, the research method, like I've mentioned, is content analysis, critical discourse analysis, and then in-depth interview to address these issues. And my theoretical frameworks are political economic theory of communications, and agenda-centered theory, public sphere, social responsibility theory, development media theory, and the public sphere theory. My key theories are the first three, very important. However, the foundation of this study was laid on development media theory. The thinking about development media is that the media should be part of, an integral part of the development process. For every development agenda, the media needs to play a role in communicating and fostering and engaging the audience about, or the populace, the citizen, about what the intent of the government is, and also to drive that change generally. Well, I started the content analysis, and I found quite a number of things. I'm looking over from the beginning of the year 2016. You see there's a low media coverage. There was an announcement after the SID administration, but there was no actual activities That's why the low coverage. 2027 they started, and then it went on, and then it goes down like the normal curve thing, you know. So, well, look at the months and the variables over the years, and in the content type, and yeah, you find something interesting. Features low, editorial low, the predominance of news story. News stories are usually very short. They just tell you announcements, so person said this, said this, said that, and then it's cut off at third or fourth paragraph. By the nature of newsroom, I was once a journalist, and I've practiced journalism for 5 years. No matter how long your story is all they compete about, they think about is space in the media, and they cut it off at any point. Sometimes important information are cut off, and they don't get to make it into the news. So news stories is not the best way of communicating or engaging the public. Well, I found that one of them, the dominant themes that in this story, the media particularly talked more about effectiveness, because you know the sources of the stories are from government, so they are always praising themselves, giving positive vibes and more. And then the framing were basically, we'll find out. Let's go on. Well, let's take a look at this data. I'll just move it slowly, and there you see that the G has got several other components, and you see more coverage there. And for looking at the newspapers, this is a opposition newspaper leading in the coverage, and there's just moderate coverage across other newspapers there. And this is a big data was sort of, you know, representing. Well, I look at the type of tone and voices, the kind of coverage given by the opposition newspaper, which is Nigeria Tribune. I don't have time to give you the history to all of these newspapers. They are all politically affiliated, and they have alliance to political activities. Anyway, the Nigeria Tribune is the oppositional newspapers driven by oppositional parties, and they tend to criticize more. So that large coverage were all criticism about the program. And here are the coverage about the different kind of other activities. Sometimes they publish and they don't tell us the specific. That's why we have the not applicable, not available. There were not enough data to understand or categorize what you're talking about. They're just publicizing themselves that they've done. We've helped empower thousands of persons, so number of billions have been spent and more. And then you see the locations, the geographical distribution of where all of these stories emanated from, and the 8 regions that were mentioned. You see, yeah, there's main sources quoted. The majority of sources quoted here are government officials, mainly from the government, meaning that high chance of manipulation. Information is just one way. There is no cross-verification of content and sources of stories. And it shows that we may be standing at risk of consuming the wrong set of information. And majority definitely is coming from them. It's positive. And look at that, they all talk about effective designs. There were no much criticism since it's coming from them. Well, these are the dominant theme. I then thought about, okay, separate this dominant theme into positive and negative. Look at what is positive. You see that? No particular positive content was discovered, but it was categorized as positive, talking about effective design. And in terms of negative themes, we'll see that they were not specific, but we're able to pinpoint some things like politicization of all of the stories and more. And then that will go on and on, the intent of the story, more information and more. And then I just want to skip all of this data, and then go on to this. We realize that there's poor accountability, lack of transparency, and political influence, funding problems, and lack of coordination generally. The second study chapter was critical resource analysis. We found that where there is a strong, less conversation at the initial, like we found in content analysis. There were a lot of criticism from the public, and we realized that the power dynamics were not balanced at all. So government were also paying people to canvass for them on social media space. They call them social media influencers. So they were also engaging back to balance the narrative. And we see this going on, and then there is a bias in the media in which and on. Well, speaking with journalists, we realized that they relied more on government sources, and some of them said that, well, we're assigned particularly to that office, and anything that is said there, we have to publish. And they have no other thing except to give to the public what they've been given. So they have less access to information. The public opinion and political influences was high on the other side, on the side. And most of their reports are influenced by politics and political agendas. They couldn't verify, they couldn't question. At some point, there are some instances where, when they want to verify, their job is put to lie. we give your company advert. In fact, there was a particular journalist I spoke to, they said, well, they had to report her because she was beginning to question the authority. So you're just meant, according to them, to report what we're giving. They had limited resources to do investigation. They could not embark on investigation because of the fact that they have to report the presidency, they have to report certain ministry, and all of the activities per day. That's the expectation. Well, they play a critical role in shaping the perception, but what kind of role? Very negative and not quite robust. Well, I'll just jump to this end of it and then say that I see a very large gap between what is happening in reality, what was announced, what the intent is, and what exactly journalists have eventually reported. So what they know is different from what they have published, and they pointed to the fact that they are hands are tied and they are unable to convey the true story of the matter. Well, there is inefficiency with signposted corruption, corrupt issues, and operational challenges, and that's pretty much of what I've done so far and what the media role has been in Nigeria. There's a strong connection between poverty fighting, political influences, and people are also struggling to get their voice heard because they were not heard in the media. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for presentation. And there's one point I picked that I think came from the media, talking about there needs to be validation of the information they are putting out. Did they think of a way in which they are going to, this can be done, yet they are also fearing from these political figures?
Yeah. Can you reiterate the question? I think is there a way?
One of the, on that point
Yes.
of verification,
Yes.
there is call for independent verification of the data before
Yes.
publishing.
Yes.
When you talk to the media participants, did they think of a way in which that can be done? Because I could pick something that they fear the political figures.
Yes.
Yeah.
What for those established media, which are the traditional media, like physically existing media, they are unable to do that because they're also scolded by their boss. There's pressure that their job is on the line. If they misbehave, they get to leave their hand. They're paid low, and they wouldn't want to leave the presidency because of the privileges attached to that, being in that environment and the token money they receive. So some of them came out straight that they wouldn't. There's no story worth dying for, and there's no story worth sacrificing my job for. So they don't pursue that. But for independent journalists, they are able to, they are funded, and there's quite a number of journalists that I also noted in my thesis that are quite very independent. They are foreign sponsored, they get grants, and they go on the cover to do some of these stories. But they do the stories, and eventually, actually last year, the program was suspended due to a big fraud that was discovered. So there's been zero communication on it at the moment, which I did an opinion piece on yesterday for Nigerian media. So it's just been a very difficult situation. People are making effort, but it's difficult for the physically traceable journalists to do the stories. Thank you. Any other question?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Are the general public aware of the media vibes?
Yes, they are aware. That's why, in fact, I was going to mention this, because of the fact that they've known that the media have been bought. They are no longer watchdog, they are lapdog. Being pets and then given spoon-fed and all, and they tell people what they want to know. They have moved, since they can't make it into the traditional media, they've moved to the digital public sphere. Yeah. Digital public sphere is where people are freely express themselves. In fact, it came to a time where the Nigerian government banned Twitter in Nigeria because of the uprising and then the agitation, the trend. There were several trends, and Nigeria are big users of Twitter. So the publics are very much aware, and that's why they are also supporting independent media like Premium Times to continue with their good works. And there are a lot of fact-checking agencies who are also helping fact-check the government, but there is so much more to do. All right. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for your time and very interesting research.
Okay.